When did music stop being just music? Or maybe the better question is, was it ever just music? We talk about music taste like it defines us. Like the playlist is a personality test. Like streaming history is a confession booth. Like the songs you listen to reveal who you are at your core. But when you actually think about it, music has always been more than organized sound. It has always been identity, tribe, status, signal. The technology just made it more visible, more explicit, more unavoidable. Music taste as identity is not new. Teenagers in the 1950s defined themselves by whether they liked rock and roll or not. In the 1960s, your music taste signaled your politics, whether you were establishment or counterculture. In the 1970s, punk versus disco was a class and cultural divide. In every era, music has been a way of saying, this is who I am, this is my people, this is what I value. But something shifted with digital music and streaming platforms. The relationship between music and identity became more visible, more performed, more algorithmically mediated. Your Spotify Wrapped is not just a summary of what you listen to. It is a public statement of identity that you share on social media. Your concert attendance is social currency documented and broadcast. Your music knowledge is cultural capital that you deploy in conversations and online spaces. The question is whether this represents a fundamental change, or just a technological amplification of what was always there. I think it is mostly amplification. But amplification changes things when something implicit becomes explicit, when something private becomes public. The nature of the thing shifts. You cannot perform identity through music the same way when you know the performance is being tracked and potentially shared. This connects to a bigger question about culture generally. Is culture something we consume or create? We have adopted consumer language. We consume content. We are consumers of media. But that metaphor is fundamentally wrong. And it shapes how we think about our relationship to culture in damaging ways. When you consume food, the food disappears. Culture does not work like that. When you listen to a song, the song does not disappear. It does not get used up. You do not deplete it by engaging with it. If anything, the opposite happens. The song grows, becomes more itself, accumulates meaning and history and associations. Every time you listen, you add something to the cultural object, your interpretation, your emotional response. Your context becomes part of what the song is in the world, not just for you. But in a broader sense, the song after a million listens is not the same cultural object it was when it was first released. It has accumulated all those encounters, all those interpretations, all that meaning. So maybe we are not consumers, maybe we are participants or co-creators. The song exists as potential, as raw material, and we complete it through our engagement. The artist creates the initial form, but the audience creates the meaning through ongoing interpretation and use. The question then becomes whether we participate consciously, intentionally, critically, or whether we let platforms and algorithms participate for us. Streaming platforms are not neutral delivery systems. They actively shape how we encounter music, what we discover, what we listen to repeatedly, what we skip, what we forget. The algorithm is participating in culture on our behalf, making choices about what matters, what gets amplified, what disappears. There is also something about how music functions emotionally that feels worth examining. Why do we need music to feel things fully? You are having an emotion, but it does not quite land. It is vague and cold. You cannot quite grasp it. Then you hear a song that captures it, and suddenly the feeling becomes real solid. Something you can hold on to and understand. Why does that happen? Maybe emotions are not just internal states. Maybe they need external form to fully exist. Music gives shape to what is formless inside you. It says this feeling you are having is real enough that someone wrote a song about it. Real enough that other people feel it too. Real enough to have form and structure and beauty. The music does not create the emotion, but it completes it. It makes it knowable. Without the song, you were feeling something, but it was private, incommunicable, maybe even unclear to yourself. With the song, you are feeling something, together with the artist, with everyone else who is connected to that song. And that collectivity makes the emotion real in a different way. It stops being just your weird personal thing and becomes part of shared human experience. This is one of the most important things music does. It creates emotional solidarity. It says you are not alone in feeling this. Other people have felt it. Feel it. Will feel it. The particulars might be different, but the emotional core is shared. Music is evidence that your inner life is not totally unique and isolated. It is part of a larger human pattern. But something else has happened to listening in the digital age. It has become work. You used to just hear a song. Now you curate playlists, manage algorithms, build your brand through music taste, perform your identity through what you share. Even casual listening has become strategic. Will this song make sense on my Instagram story? Does this artist align with my aesthetic? Am I listening to the right things for the image I am trying to project? Music was supposed to be leisure, escape, pleasure. Now it is identity, labor. You are constantly signaling who you are through what you hear, and the signaling is never finished. You cannot just establish your music taste and be done. You have to keep updating, keep discovering, keep performing the role of someone with good taste, whatever that means in your social context. This is exhausting, and it changes the nature of listening when you are always performing taste. You cannot fully lose yourself in the music. Part of your brain is always monitoring. Is this working? Does this reflect well on me? What will people think? There is a self-consciousness that prevents the kind of absorption that makes music meaningful. Maybe we need to remember how to just listen, without wondering what it says about us, to put on music and not document it, not share it, not perform it, just experience it privately. The way people used to listen to albums alone in their rooms with no one watching. There is also something about ownership that has changed. Can you own a song anymore? Not legally, but emotionally. You used to discover a song, and it was yours. Your private relationship with those 3 minutes. You could listen to it over and over. Let it soundtrack a period of your life, and it would remain intimately connected to your experience. Now a song you love goes viral, becomes a meme, a trend, a moment, and suddenly it belongs to everyone. It is no longer your song, it is everyone's song. Which means in some sense it is no one's song. We gained infinite access to all music. Everyone can hear everything immediately. But we lost the ability to have secret favorites. Everything is immediately public, instantly shared. Nothing stays private long enough to become personal. This is the trade-off of digital culture: infinite access, infinite sharing, but also infinite publicity, infinite performance. You cannot have a private relationship with culture anymore, or at least it is much harder. This connects to questions about attention and depth. When did we stop finishing albums? You start an album, get distracted, skip to something else, start a playlist, never finish it. Music became like scrolling, endless options, infinite skipping. Nothing has to end because there is always something next. Albums used to be complete thoughts. You sat with them start to finish, lived with them for weeks. Now you sample everything, commit to nothing. We gained infinite choice but lost the ability to sit with one thing long enough for it to matter. Finishing an album is almost a radical act now. It means you chose depth over breadth, commitment over variety. It means you gave something your sustained attention in an age of constant distraction. Deep listening is not just hearing or liking, but actually paying attention, following the bass line, noticing the silence between words, hearing how the production shapes meaning, understanding the structure, the choices, the craft. Deep listening is rare now, because everything is background soundtrack to something else. But music rewards attention. The more you bring to it, the more it gives back. This is not elitism or gatekeeping, it is just respect for the work someone put into making this, and respect for your own capacity to experience complexity. You have the ability to hear deeply, to notice things, to understand how music works. And that ability atrophies if you never use it, if everything is always background. Maybe we need less music heard more deeply. Maybe the infinite access is actually the problem. When every song ever recorded is available instantly, nothing feels special, nothing demands your attention. You can always skip to something else, so nothing gets your full focus. Scarcity created a different relationship to music. When you only had a few albums, you knew them completely. Now you know nothing completely. The solution is not to go back to some imaginary pre-digital purity that never existed. The solution is to be conscious and intentional about how we engage, to recognize when we are performing and when we are actually listening, to make space for private, unmediated encounters with music, to choose depth over breadth, sometimes to finish the album. Music was never just music, it was always identity, always cultural signal, always emotional work. But it does not have to be. Only that we can still find moments of genuine connection and discovery. We just have to be more deliberate about creating those moments, because the default mode of digital culture pushes against them constantly. Subscriptions and likes are a huge help in building this channel.